What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. It's Saturday morning. Had to hop on here, get you guys an upload for Saturday. We do not miss daily uploads in season, fellas. Now, I'm still kind of experimenting with what I want to even put out on Saturdays. Today, we're going to go over some rest of season rankings, which are always fun to do because, 3 weeks have now passed. How do we feel? Or no, 2 weeks have now passed. How do we feel about these players moving forward? And I figured, why not? Let's try one of these out on Saturday. If this does well, I'll keep doing these on Saturday. If not, then maybe we'll switch to injury report. And if the injury reports don't really stick, then I don't know what we're going to do on Saturdays, but we'll figure it out moving forward. Maybe even just like my plays of the week. I don't know. Now, today, we're going to talk about my 5 players that are skyrocketing up my rest of season rankings. Pretty much, I looked at my pre-draft rankings. So what was that, like September 8th? And compared them to the rest of season rankings. I just put out rest of season rankings on the Patreon. Dude, I'm putting out so much content for the patrons behind the scenes. Every Tuesday, I'm putting out a waiver guide with fab recommendations. Then Wednesday, I'm going to be putting out rest of season rankings every single week. And then Thursdays will be my weekly rankings every single week. So 3 exclusive pieces of content. And then Sunday is going to be a Patreon-only live stream for like start-sit questions, last-minute trade questions, all that good stuff. So that's a lot of value I'm giving those boys for $5 a month. Make sure you go check it out. It's right down here. Patreon.com/Ron Stewart. Now, with all that being said, before we get into this, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty babe.
All right, and we're back. And the first player I want to talk about that's kind of been skyrocketing is one that's like under the radar a little bit, that I don't think people really have as somebody that should be skyrocketing up, but I think that he should be somebody that if we did a draft today, he'd be a late first rounder for me. We're talking about Darren Waller. And I had him as my 20th overall player as a tight end 2 pre-draft. So that's like back end of the second round. If we did a draft, I'll probably do a video eventually on like redrafting from like middle of the season. But if we did the draft today, Darren Waller would be my 109 as a tight end 2. So he's still the tight end 2, but he moves into that first round for a few reasons. And I'm really feeling it this year. I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys are feeling it too. But man, like you need to have an elite tight end this year. Like tight end, the positional scarcity right now is huge. It's been an absolute shit show. Hockenson's been great, but I still have Hockenson, Kittle, Pitts as like third round picks. There's this huge tier gap between Kelsey, Waller, and then the rest of the field. Even Hockenson and all those guys are great, like I said. But even if you missed out on those guys, we have Tanyan, Tyler Higbee, Mike Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, all these guys that were drafted as top 12 tight ends that aren't even inside of the top 12 tight ends in scoring right now, that are busting, that are leaving holes in your lineup. It's such a power play that you can take a Darren Waller, a Travis Kelce, get pretty much top 12 wide receiver production and put that in your tight end spot when everyone else has to put, they're just pretty much punting or hoping for a touchdown in their tight end spot. It's such a massive, massive advantage that you're getting there. And Waller's volume has been absurd. And we actually talked about this in the offseason where my upside case for Darren Waller was, okay, the floor is there, but you guys know I'm not very high on Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs. I'm still not high on them. And even if you are high on them, those aren't 2 players. Or Bryan Edwards has the profile of someone that should command targets. He doesn't. But Henry Ruggs is a field stretcher. He's going to stretch out the field. He's not going to command a bunch of targets. He has like a 13% target share right now, which means there's not a lot of guys in that offense taking targets away from Darren Waller. So I said this preseason, but there's a possibility out there where he has almost a 30% target share type season where he goes absolutely crazy. And that is what he's on pace for right now. Now, do I think that he's going to stick to a 31% target share for the entire season? Probably not. But that's still crazy. I know that he had a ton of targets in game 1. It kind of came down in game 2. But I still expect him to be in that 28% target share range where he just gets a crazy amount of targets. I think he'll lead all tight ends in targets when it's all said and done. And like I said, with Aguilar gone, with all the targets being there, with this offense actually being pretty good, like Derek Carr looks very good right now. And when you can just lock in a sure thing with Darren Waller, like it's just a massive, massive advantage you're getting there. So that's, like I said, I would have him as like a late first round pick if we were to draft today. Then moving on, let's talk about the boy, Joe Mixon. And I had him pre-draft as the 23rd player overall, so that's like late second. I think that's like the 211 as my RB12. Now I have him as my 14th overall player is the RB8. So I would take him as early as the 202 right now. And here's kind of what we figured out with Joe Mixon is we knew he was going to get the volume. But it's one thing to project the volume, and then it's one thing to see it in what like Mixon is actually doing right now. He's top 5 in opportunity share. He's top 5 in weighted opportunities, which weighted opportunities takes into account the targets and the carries. Top 5 in carries, top 5 in goal line carries. So he's seeing a lot of very important touches. Now the targets haven't been crazy yet, but he's been running the most amount of routes that he's ever ran. He's getting the most targets that he's ever gotten before. So he is starting to tick up in the passing department as well. So he is getting all the volume in the world. Now, a lot of you guys are going to say, Ron, don't you fade volume dependent running backs? Like, doesn't that kind of fall into the category of like a dead zone running back where we're chasing volume? And of course, you guys know I don't chase volume, but I genuinely do think that Mixon is a legit talent. And a lot of people out there that'll tell you that like Mixon is just an average running back. I don't know where they get that from, because if you look at every scenario that Mixon has ever been in since he stepped foot in the league, it has been bottom 5. On the Bengals with bad quarterback play and Andy Dalton and just a collapsing O-line, and he's had to deal with injuries as well. But in terms of him just being a really good running back, there's clips out there where he looks great. He grades out pretty well in PFF. He has the second best PFF rush grade right now, behind only Nick Chubb. So a lot of this, I see a lot of this lazy analysis on Twitter and stuff saying, Mixon's a average player. He's not very good at running back. Dude, if you swapped him out in pretty much any other situation for those first 4 years of his career, I truly do think he would have balled out. He was a great prospect. He's flashed. He's put up an RB1 season before. And now he's finally getting a crazy amount of volume. And this offense, I think, is going to improve as the year goes on, as Joe Burrow kind of settles in. Now, this is going to be a tough matchup against the Steelers they have this week. But I do think that Joe Burrow is going to kind of settle in a little bit here. And we're going to see Mixon, he's going to get that volume. And I think that more of his games will look like they did in week 1 than they did in week 2. And like I was saying with his talent, he also has some pretty good skill stats on Player Profiler. He's 7th in juke rate. He's 3rd in evaded tackles. Now, that evaded tackles number is a little bit inflated because it's not on a per touch basis. Because he's getting so much volume, he should be near the top in evaded tackles. But number 3 is still pretty solid. He's evading 9 tackles per game, which is wild. And the juke rate actually factors in the volume. So 7th in juke rate. He can make people miss. He's a great running back. So I don't really get all the disrespect on him. And even with the rough game that he had in week 2, he's the RB9. I expect him to hover in the RB5 to RB10 range. And if you drafted Joe Mixon, you're happy about it. I have him in one league where I paired him up with McCaffrey. And now that McCaffrey's hurt, I still kind of feel good about having Mixon as like my anchor running back. And I'll just kind of tough it out until McCaffrey comes back. Now on to the next one. We got TJ Hockenson. This is somebody that I have in a lot of places, man. I'm pretty glad about it, man. He is my most drafted player on Underdog. So there's that. There's 308 drafts. Make sure you go check out Underdog Fantasy. Use my promo code ROM when you deposit $10. You get a $10 bonus on top of that. The app, all that. You can just go right to the app. It's in the description down below. And you can do, like, I think they have, like, really cool, like, pick'em contests on there. You can do, like, over-under, fantasy points, passing yards, all that good stuff. And you can still do drafts. Like, they run up drafts every weekend where you can just hop in, draft a team just for that week. So it's kind of a little bit better than DFS, where everyone has like the same lineups and shit. Now, talking about Hockenson, it's crazy, man. I had him as a 5th rounder, so 54th as a tight end 5. I didn't even expect him to jump up like this. He's now 34th for me, so I would draft him like the late 3rd if we did a draft today, and I have him as the tight end 3. I was pretty firm going into the season that I didn't really expect a tight end to really even jump into that Kittle, Waller, Kelsey tier. I thought that was just kind of untouchable, and you just had like Pitts, Andrews, Hockenson kind of fighting for that next spot. Maybe they could fight into that spot. But at this point, I mean, it is a little bit because Kittle has been so bad, but Hockenson is now the tight end 3 for me. And he's looked great. He's 3rd in target share among tight ends, 2nd in targets. I have him ahead of Kittle at this point. And this Detroit's offense, everyone wanted to tell you this Detroit offense, fade the Detroit offense. They don't look good in the offseason. And here's the thing, man. All that needed to happen for these Detroit Lion players, DeAndre Swift. You guys know I love DeAndre Swift. Everyone wants to say, Detroit Lions, their offense is terrible, whatever. For these bets to pay off, because you're already getting such a huge discount on them being in a bad offense, all that needed to happen was they just needed to not be a dumpster fire. As long as they weren't as bad as like the Adam Gase Jets offenses, like bottom 3 in scoring, they're going to pay off at ADP. And so far, they've been great scoring. Let me actually check real quick. Let's see if I can do a live check. NFL points per game leaders. I imagine that they're like probably in the top 15 in points per game. I have Detroit. Detroit is the 12th highest scoring offense right now. And y'all wanted to say that they would be a dumpster fire. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be a top 12 offense, but for that, like I said, for them to pay off at ADP, they just needed to not be a dumpster fire like bottom 3. They have already shown that they are not going to be a dumpster fire. That offensive line looks amazing. They finally moved Penei Sewell over to the left tackle. Jeez, man. Like, if you watch the Packers-Lions game, Goff had all the time in the world to throw. When you can give a quarterback all the time in the world to throw, even when he's throwing to Quintez Cephas, who I think is actually, Quintez Cephas is sneaky. I didn't put him in the waiver wire video, but if I were to run that back, I would say if you can pick up Quintez Cephas in like a deep league, like I'm talking like 20 roster spots, I'm a fan of Quintez Cephas. But pretty much what I'm saying is that this offense is going to be as bad as we thought. The offensive line is going to make things kind of stable for Jared Goff. Jared Goff has actually looked pretty good so far. DeAndre Swift has been explosive. TJ Hockenson has been great. The offense looks very solid. Now, I don't think that they're going to be a top 12 scoring unit, but they're going to be fringe 20, top 20, which means that your bet paid off. That's all you needed to happen. You just needed them to be a competent offense, like capable of scoring points. That's all you needed. Then moving on, we have Deebo. And this has been tough, man, because I've been beating that Ayuk drum all offseason. I took that on the chin, fellas. On the chin. And here's the thing. I still think that Ayuk is going to be fine in the long run. We're still buying in Dynasty. I honestly think that by the time it's like week 8, week 9, Ayuk should settle into his role. It's crazy, dude. Here's the thing, man. So I'll take my L on Ayuk. But if you had told me that, like, he had this hamstring injury and he wasn't going to, and like Shanahan was vocal about him not playing in week 1, we would have adjusted our expectations. You know, something like we weren't given this information that Ayuk was either in the doghouse or that he had a hamstring injury. But I still do believe that he is a very talented player. We have all the stats to back that up, that through 1 year, he is on the trajectory to be a superstar. I still believe that that is true. We just need him to, I don't know what's good with Shanahan, but he needs to either figure things out or he needs to get healthy. I don't know if it's a health thing. I still don't know if it's a doghouse thing. I don't know what it is, but I do think, like I said, by like week 6, week 7, week 8, week 9, he should be fine. I'm still buying, but don't get it twisted. My bet on Ayuk was not a bet against Deebo or Kittle. I still have Deebo in a ton of places. I actually have Deebo on the FFPC. His ADP was outrageous. So I play in these. I have 9 FFPC leagues, so like $350 buy-ins. They're Football Guys Championship leagues. And I ended up with him in 5 out of 9 of those. I usually don't do that. My ownership, I like to, like a max ownership is like 30%. In those leagues, my ownership on Deebo is like, 5 out of 9 is like 55%. So I was way overweight on him. But it was because his ADP was outrageous. I still had him pretty high as like wide receiver. I had him at pick 65 as wide receiver 33. And his ADP on FFPC was pick 83. So I was getting him around pick 80, like around at discount from where I have him in my rankings. So he was a crazy value. So I have Deebo in a lot of places. I have Ayuk in a lot of places. But now he's moved up to my 44th spot as the wide receiver 22. If they're not going to respect Ayuk, if this is going to be Deebo's offense, even though I do think in the long run, like by the time we're at like week 10, I don't see Deebo maintaining his target numbers, because I do think that we'll see Ayuk come back. We'll see kind of Kittle settle into things. But this early season run for Deebo has made him really valuable to the point where I would value him as a top 24 wide receiver. He leads the league in target share. Like, that is insane. I'm looking at the screen right now. 40.8% target share. 24 points per game. Wide receiver 3 in points per game. Like, the volume that he's getting, the targets that he's getting, the points that he's putting up is insane. Now, like I said, I think that Kittle and Ayuk will eventually come through, but for now, you're holding on to Deebo. Do not sell him because you think that Ayuk and Kittle are going to come back later. You just take this production right now. He was a huge hit at ADP, and you just move from there. Now, for this last one, we're going to get into Leonard Fournette, Leonard the Great, for all the people that are OG subscribers. The OG subscribers know I've been on Leonard Fournette, and I honestly wish I was on him this offseason, because I was on him last offseason, which was when he got cut from the Jaguars, went to the Buccaneers. Now, here's the thing. I liked him a lot on the Jaguars because I honestly thought that because we know he was a great prospect, top 5 pick. I still believe that he had some juice, and he was teed up for all the volume in the world on the Jaguars. And I'm not taking that L. I'll take the L on Ayuk. I'll take the L on some of the other players that I've touted. I'll take the L on Devonta Smith. I won't take the L on Leonard Fournette 2020 because I truly do think if he stayed with the Jaguars, he probably gets the exact same workload that we saw James Robinson get. He has the same exact season as James Robinson. I think he'd probably be more efficient on those touches. I think that he probably was better than James Robinson. Or he probably would have matched him, maybe done better. But still, because James Robinson had like a top 5 season, if Leonard Fournette was never cut and he stayed on the Jaguars, he probably would have also had a top 5 season with that crazy opportunity share. And I'm sorry that's not up for debate. Now, I disrespected Leonard Fournette coming into this season. I had him as my 150th ranked player, RB48. I had him way lower. And like I said, we're gonna highlight an L I took right here because now I have him at 69th as the RB28. That's a crazy jump. The biggest jump that we've seen on this list is like 20 spots. That's like a 70 pick jump, like an 80 pick jump. And I got this backfield completely wrong. My idea was I thought Rojo was a very clean runner between the tackles. He's polished. I thought he'd get the between the 20s work. I thought he'd maybe get some goal line touches. I thought that Leonard Fournette would just like mix in as a change of pace with goal line touches, and then Giovanni Bernard would get the passing down work. And Fournette has just essentially been the workhorse, which is crazy. He has handled a 63% opportunity share. He's 12th in weighted opportunities. He's 6th in the league in targets among running backs, which is crazy. 28th in carries, and he's now seeing more rushing opportunities than Ronald Jones because Ronald Jones has been like fumbling. Giovanni Bernard hasn't seen even close to the role I thought he would, so now Leonard Fournette is taking up those targets. So now we're getting Leonard Fournette in a top 5 scoring offense where he is getting the bulk of the passing down work. He's mixing in for 10 rushing attempts per game. That's a recipe for a nice back-end RB2, and that's perfect, man. That's perfect. Imagine where you could get him in drafts was like the double-digit rounds at a certain point. And if you can get Leonard Fournette in the double-digit rounds instead of drafting, somebody like Myles Gaskin in round 6 or Mike Davis in round 6, that's a huge win. And that's why we wait on running back 2s. Now, I wish that I was targeting Leonard Fournette in the later rounds. I wasn't. But I'll take that L on the chin, fellas. Now, with that being said, that's going to be the 5 players we'll cover today. Maybe next week, let me know if you guys like this video. Next week, I'll probably do a rest of season rankings where we go over my top 5 risers, top 5 fallers from week 3 to week 4. We'll see. If no one really likes this video, maybe we'll try an injury reports. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm still trying to navigate Saturdays for content. I feel like, again, I think we have a really tight... I hope you said bless me. I feel like we have a really tight Sunday through Friday schedule. Oh, man. But what was I saying? Jesus, I feel like I lost brain cells on that one. But yeah, we have a really tight Sunday through Friday. I'm still trying to figure out what we're doing on Saturdays. I'm going to go watch some college football. Hope y'all enjoyed this one. Make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. I'll see you guys that are Patreon members tomorrow. I'll probably be live streaming around like 11 a.m. Now, with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty bag, my kitty boots. I got the juice, I got the juice.